Well, hello again. Welcome to another edition of CropLife Retail Week. Paul Schrimpf here with Eric Sfiligoj.
Hello, sir.
Well, we're back in the bunker.
Yes, I know. We did get that memo because I know, I don't know what it's like for our viewers, individual states, but here in Ohio, we've gone from yellow to orange to red to dark red. And based on the map I looked at the other day, it looks like there's a lot of purple and black out there. So unfortunately, Ohio is blowing up with the Delta variant of COVID. So
Yep. Yeah. And I personally just came back from vacation out in California. So we're staying home for a little bit. I'm staying home until next week. So maybe we'll get back in the office for a couple of days and see what's going on. But anyway, yesterday was actually a great day for me. I actually supported local farming, picked up some grapes actually out in your neck of the woods, sorta. There's a little vineyard called Yummy Grapes in Avon off of Nagel Road, which is about half an hour from my house. Got myself a nice peck of grapes, brought them home, boiled them down yesterday, got like nine pint jars of pulp that we throw in a freezer and make grape jam throughout the year. So
those are Concord grapes, I'm assuming.
You betcha. It's a great way to support a local farmer, and it's not a big operation. She she has a little trouble getting around. I'm not sure. Hopefully she has some help over there, but she had that basket with my name on it waiting for her and paid in cash and went out the door. And boy, it does feel good to support local farms, you know.
Well, I know I grew up in a family that my grandparents actually had grapes in their yard and used to make homemade wine. And I remember many a fall picking all the grapes, putting them in the basement, and helping my grandfather crush them and put all the wine into the liquid into the barrels. And I do remember, though, that the nastiest part of that, of course, was when you had that many grapes sitting around in the basement, the fruit fly problem became very overwhelming. And one of my projects, of course, post pressing was to put down the sulfur to kill them all in the basement. That was not a fun job, I must admit. I don't miss that part of my childhood at all. So.
But, I guess, sneaking and indulging in wine on the side probably was the better part of it.
Well, actually, what I used to do is I used to take the freshly pressed juice and just drink it like grape juice before the fermentation kicked in. Because I never was a big, my grandparents, being Slovenian, they loved more of a sour tasting wine, shall we say. Because I could never understand why at the family gatherings they always cut their wine with ginger ale, but as I grew older and started trying it, I got it because it was very, very sour, very bitter wine. And I never did sneak any of it because I just didn't like the taste. But the freshly pressed grape juice was delicious. There was nothing when it was like freshly cold and just coming right off the press. I loved that. So.
Well, that's great. That's awesome. Well, so we probably should talk a little bit about something that's happening in the industry. So we're working on our Precision Ag Vision Conference, which is coming to Phoenix in January. God's and virus willing, we're plunging ahead with plans on that. I was part of the group that helped found this thing, and now we've got a lot of support inside the company. So actually I'm a little more on the outside now, kind of supplying. So it's kind of fun. I get to, cherry pick and examine some of the things that are really interesting to me. And robotics is really a kind of cool right now. We're seeing a lot of things scale. I mean, we had Abundant Robotics, which was doing the apple picking robot, kind of make the announcement. Everybody was somewhat surprised, although I wasn't terribly surprised that they ended up shuttering just because they couldn't raise enough money. That was always the golden goose was, can we get farm workers not have to worry about having to supply farm workers and just go out there and pick through robots. A lot of it now is about assisting the folks that are doing that. I mean, the picking it takes an amount of skill and understanding of the fruit and not having to destroy it or being careful with it and so forth. So why not automate everything around that? So automating carts, automating the things that are really difficult work. that take workers to do, but are, really unskilled when it comes to, driving carts around. I mean, it's the same principle as doing, the grain carts and having a grain cart coming next to the combine. I mean, you want a human in the combine to watch everything, to monitor. I mean, that's the big payoff, but somebody driving a cart, I mean, do you really need that if you could have that happen autonomously? So we're seeing companies focusing on those things, and it's going to take smaller companies probably to do that, because I don't think you're going to see the bigs, although we saw, of course, Case acquiring Raven for some of those, from the autonomy, and that's fairly large, but you're going to see, I think, probably smaller companies in investing going into trying to figure out how to help the folks that are necessary in the field to do the work that, you don't, that nobody really wants to do, that's really hard work. Get that automated so that you're minimizing the number of people and shaving off, tens of percentages, instead of just saying we're not going to hire anybody, we're going to have one guy operating a bunch of robots. So I think it's a good approach. It's interesting, and that's something I think we're going to be looking at carefully, is that idea of how do we scale up robotics in agriculture across markets.
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, I know I did that story recently on John Deere buying the Bear Flag for their autonomous technologies. And, I know they're hoping to get some introductions on some of their mainstream farm equipment in the near future, but it kind of sounds like that, for the ag retailer equipment, the spreaders, the sprayers, that type of technology will probably start popping up here in about 4 or 5 years, if all the projection timelines are correct that I've seen. So again, yes, it's a topic that we should start talking about now to be prepared for when this starts hitting us full force in the next couple of years. So.
Yep, absolutely. I think that, when you look at big equipment, it's just going to be slower. It's a harder lift. I mean, Deere is probably going to look to acquire more technology, more intelligence they can build into their own equipment. But to see them making teeny robots, probably not.
No.
You eventually see Deere or Case or AGCO, trying to automate or make autonomous things that they sell that are fairly significant in size. Could be wrong, but that's where I would see that trend kind of heading. So what do you got, sir? What's up in your world?
Well, what's up in my world? Well, I guess, under the heading of more of the same, of course, this year we've talked a lot about the fact that there's been a lot of ag retail consolidation going on in the marketplace, particularly among cooperatives. And lo and behold, in the last 2 weeks, because you and I weren't together last week, so we sort of did a special edition, but I can report that on September 1st, that our friends at Premier Ag Co-op in Indiana have merged officially with White River Cooperative. So those two cooperatives in Indiana are now together as one. The new company name, combined name, is Premier Companies, and they're going to maintain their headquarters in Indiana, as they have. And it looks like if when's all said and done, I haven't gotten Premier's top 100 form back yet, but with the combination of the two companies, I would imagine they'll fall somewhere in the high or the low 40s to mid 40s in the top 100 in this year's ranking. So. And then the other thing to share, Paul, I know this happened about 2 weeks ago as well. Hurricane Ida came through and really messed up a good portions of Louisiana, Texas, a lot of the Mid-South, and also dumped a lot of rain in New York and New Jersey, and turned those into floodplains temporarily. I remember watching the U.S. Open with the rain going sideways. That was a real interesting picture coming out of New York. But just some fallout from that, we're still being felt here a couple of weeks later. We found out that Bayer's largest glyphosate plant, which is in Luling, Louisiana, is offline because of the hurricane. And at this point, the company has no timetable, no date where the production will resume for glyphosate at that plant. So again, that's causing a little disruption in the marketplace, a little worry going forward. Hopefully things will be back online quicker as opposed to later, but we will have to see. And the other thing I know we've talked about, Paul, is a lot of the export numbers for the U.S. crops. I mean, they've been very strong, but because of Ida, I guess barge traffic on the Mississippi has been basically brought to a standstill, and that is causing U.S. export sales, as you might imagine, to also slow down or stop completely. So again, you know, their folks are working to try to get things back up and running, but at this point, about 2 weeks out from Ida, there are still bottlenecks across the system.
Yeah, it's nothing we need. I mean, boy, it was already bad, and I mean, the projections seem to be going into the 2-year area in terms of maybe getting things back to normal, if not longer. So it's something that we're going to need to deal with. I think, I was just talking to folks in the story about that aspect of it, and it really does speak to the benefit of the retailer having those partnerships with suppliers, being tied into supply. I mean, depending on where things are in agriculture, they're up or down, puts advantages in certain people's pockets, I guess. And the fact that we, as retailers, have the relationships and know where the supplies are and talk to the suppliers regularly, that's a terrific asset for the farmer to be able to have that, reliance and supply. Speaks to the scale that's needed to have that product on the books, to have it available to deliver. And if it's not available, it's not available. But if you have those relationships with distributors and with manufacturers, you can make things happen more so than one individual farmer out in the countryside. So the value of retail, again, showing itself and all the things that are happening in the market right now.
Yep. Well, Paul, I know it's time for your favorite segment of the show, Fun with Numbers.
I'm not dreading it so much because I did have a week off of it, so it was like
your tank is refilled. Okay.
Yeah, so I'm ready to be humiliated all over again. So
okay, well, we have a small number this week, 15%. And your clue is CropLife 100, which is near and dear to our hearts this time of year. So what do you believe 15% might represent as it ties to our CropLife 100 ag retail?
I'd say maybe the percentage of retailers that are excited about carbon.
I'm sorry, Paul. No, this one is more basic. Again,
is that too high? Is 15% too high for that number?
Probably, but well, I'll get to that probably in a future segment, maybe next week. But no, 15%. Okay. 15%, Paul. This ties back to the bottom line for CropLife 100, which of course is the bottom line. And I was pleased to see that the top 10 CropLife ag retailers, basically almost all of them, have their survey forms into me, and their sales between 2020 and 2021 look like they're going to be up collectively around 15%. So the top half of our CropLife 100 had a very good year here in 2021, and it looks like, given that, based on some sort of projections, we got about 60%, 60 forms in at this point, and based on that, it looks like total sales for the segment will probably be up between 2 and 3 billion when it's all said and done, year over year from 2020. So again, that's more growth than I would have expected. Usually these top guys grow 5 to 10%. So for them to be up collectively around 15% is not bad at all.
Yeah, that's great. And when you look at it, crop prices are up, crop prices are up, but prices for inputs are up as well. So there's a motivation to grow a better crop, to grow more crop, but there's also motivation to save inputs. So talk about a perfect storm for retail. You would think, even though selling products at higher prices can be difficult, that whole notion of being able to help save inputs at the end of the day through using technology and data and providing that kinds of prescriptions, different advice, so that you can keep the crop growing to meet that number that they have, but then and reduce the inputs I think that's going to continue to be good news for retail. At least you would hope so. I think, you're finding optimistic numbers as far as people looking at the future as well, aren't you? Or maybe I should leave that for next week.
Well, you can leave that for next week, but I will say this. I know, we have as people ranking on a scale of 1 to 10 their feelings for the coming year. And I know last year the numbers were all over the place. They ranged from as low as a 1 to as high as a 7. Maybe there were a few 8s sprinkled around there, but this year looks like the averages are going to be between 5 and 8. So there, the folks who were much more pessimistic going into 2021 are much more positive going into 2022. So, and again, that's 60% of the forms in, folks. If you have your forms out there, I know the deadline's coming up here, September 24th. Please get me your forms, but I don't. Again, with basically the top half of the 100 already in, I'm waiting for mostly the middle to the bottom guys to come in with their survey forms. I don't anticipate these numbers altering too significantly. So it looks like a year, but you can read the final report for yourself in December of the 2021 edition of CropLife.
Absolutely. That's great. Yeah, I did talk to someone over at MKC, and rumor has it that form will be in shortly. So
good. Yes, I have not received theirs yet, but I know they made a very big jump last year with their merger with Midwest Fertilizer the year before. So I'm hoping that they will also get there. Yeah, they're, like I said, I said most of the top was in, not everybody, but most. So yes, David Spears, if you're listening, we're talking to you.
I wasn't going to call him out. Jeez.
Sorry.
He said it's coming, and Dave, that was not my idea. So anyway, are you done? Are we done?
I think we are done. We've been on for quite a while, but I think that was fun. We had to catch up after a week off, and heck, talking about grapes just brought back childhood memories, both fond and not so fond.
Yeah, that's why I boiled them right away, because I know what happens. Grapes and fruit flies are fast friends.
Oh, and when they inundate, oh my Lord, it's like flying through a cloud. Okay, I'm getting flashbacks that are not good. We should stop now.
Never mind. All right, well, that's it for this edition of CropLife Retail Week. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next week. If you have questions or comments about today's episode of Retail Week, contact us by email or Twitter, or type your message in the comment section below.
Your feedback is important to us. We'll try our best to address your thoughts in next week's episode.
And be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel.